Welcome to the Divot and the Diva, where golf tradition meets, well, whatever Susan decides golf should be today. Jay's the lifelong golfer who's coached it, covered it, and lived it. Susan's the brand new golfer with a fresh take, fierce confidence, and absolutely no idea where her tee shot just went. Together, they're proving golf is more fun and way funnier when a divot teams up with a diva. Now, on to the tee.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Jay, and to my left is my wife, Susan, and we are the Divot
and the Diva.
All right, we're glad you joined us today. If you haven't seen the last episode, please do so. Go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you choose to get your entertainment for the day or the week. Also, it's a good time to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Do that now. It's free to do. Helps us out a lot so that we know you're watching and listening, and our episodes will find you. So what's on the tee for this episode? I've been so looking forward to this episode, haven't I?
Yes, you have.
Yes,
I have. Very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited today. So it's our first ever guest on the Divot and the Diva, and one of my favorite people.
I'm honored.
Yeah, one of my favorite people of all time, and we'll get into all that. It's going to be a fun time. His name is Rick Nuckolls. Rick's one of the 29,000 plus members of the PGA of America. He's a past president of the South Central section of the PGA. Where Rick and I really became fast friends is when the developmental tour, the Ben Hogan Tour, which is an umbrella of the PGA Tour, came to Wichita some 37 years ago. But before we jump into talking about the Ben Hogan Tour, we've got some business to finish up.
We do, indeed.
Do we really have to do this?
Yes, you wanted to do it, so yes, we are announcing the winner.
Okay.
Because I need to. Then our subscribers need to know.
Yeah,
who won.
They do need to know.
Who picked the winners?
Right. So what we decided to do, and I think we'll do this for all majors. So we'll do this for the PGA, the U.S. Open, and the British Open. Yeah, we didn't have anything on the line. Next time, see, because you won, we didn't have anything on the line. So next
go
time,
figure, right?
Yeah.
Go
so what
figure.
we did is we took the Masters field. The Masters is very unique. It only has about 90-ish players in it by design. And so what we did is we took the field and we broke them into 4 categories based on the world golf rankings. So
We chose.
world ranking 1 to 20 was one category, 21 to 40, et cetera, et cetera. And we picked one from each category.
Yes.
And the point system worked like this. So at the end of Sunday, after Rory putted out and won his second consecutive Masters, we looked and saw where our players were on the leaderboard. So if a player was tied for 10th, he got 10 points. If he was tied for 21st, he got 21 points. Just like in golf, the lower score, the better. So last episode, Susan and I
chose
made
our players.
Draft.
Yes, and
I gave her the first
He was
pick
shocked.
in each round. And of course, my strategy was, okay, I know she's going to pick Scotty or Rory or somebody like that. She threw me a curveball from Jump Street and picked Russell Henley.
Okay, let me
Russell Henley.
And he almost wins.
And he almost wins.
I know. Good job,
She's
Russell.
a magician right here, I'm telling you.
No, I picked Russell Henry, Ryan Gerard, Michael Brennan, and John Kiefer. John did not make the cut. But that was all balanced out by Jay's choices were Chris Gotterup, Woo Lee, Spieth, and Woodland. And Woo Lee did not make the cut. So it all evened out. We each had 3 players that got all the way through Sunday. And by who knows what crazy math, at one point I was ahead 60 points. I won by 6?
You won by 5.
5, okay.
And if Russell Henley would have bogeyed his 18th hole, we would have tied. We would have gone into a playoff, and I had no idea what we were going to do.
Oh,
Paper, rock, scissors,
So did I.
or
I won.
I don't know.
That's all that really matters.
We were going to figure out something. So
So you have to watch the last episode why I chose who I chose, because I thought it was very wise how I chose.
So at the end of the day, she had 148 points to my 152. But my team made a gallant effort to try to get back into it
They
on
did.
Sunday
They
because I
tried.
was 60 points down,
He was.
and I was not pleasant to be around on Sunday. In fact, Susan left the house for a while.
Yeah,
because,
I did, actually.
because I was
Fix your own lunch. Huh?
yes,
Gosh darn.
I was a
it's game.
Grumpasaurus.
You know it's a game, right?
Total Grumpasaurus. All right, so if you like us so far, let us know. Tap like and subscribe. We'll have new episodes out every 3 weeks or so. All right, let's properly welcome our guest, Rick Nuckolls. So he served at the top level of the PGA of America South Central section as president. He was the head pro at Rolling Hills Country Club, which is the birthplace of the LPGA Tour.
Yes.
Head pro and director of golf at Reflection Ridge Golf Club, tournament coordinator for the first 7 Wichita Opens on the Korn Ferry Tour, which back then it started out as the Ben Hogan Tour and morphed into the Nike Tour. So we'll talk about that.
Do all those positions have initials? Do you have like a boatload of initials behind your name?
You know how to do that. I think it says bad golfer. If you really put B, A, and D, all that in there, that's what it comes up to.
But if you surround yourself with good golfers, that makes up for it.
He's vice president of everything.
There
He
you go.
also caddied for his younger brother Rod, who played on the PGA Tour for about 4 or 5 years.
Which that's super fun. I just learned that today.
Yeah, so I can't
Very
wait
good.
to hear some of those stories. So welcome my good friend Rick Nuckolls. What's up, pro?
Thank you, Jay. Hi, Susan.
Hello.
Glad to be here, and I've watched the shows, and congratulations, you guys are doing great. And
Well,
it's
we
fun to
appreciate
watch,
you.
and I love the little things that you guys do with all the games in there, and it's fun.
Never a dull.
Golf's a game.
It's kind of our life.
We got to
Good
remind
point.
ourselves sometimes
Good
golf
point.
is a game.
Yeah, I don't know why. I really do not know why we play
It
it.
took me 42 years to learn that. So.
Wowza.
Old dogs, right?
Wow.
Learn new
Man.
tricks. All right, so
How
let's.
old were you when you started playing?
Actually, we were about 12.
Okay.
And Dad would go to a Mulvane, Kansas, a
Oh, yes.
little sand green golf course
Oh.
with his buddies, and he had
Okay.
about 10 extra clubs. And me and my younger brother Rod and Randy, we'd go over to the 4th hole and start, and with about 10 clubs to pass around, and they would start on one.
You
and
got,
it was,
you got a 4-hole lead on them, and they
it
still
was- it was
smoked
fun.
you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, my
and,
gosh.
And we just kind of learned how to play and hit it, and
Just jacking around.
yeah, and then, but the fun part was we joined Rolling Hills. Dad came up with $300 way back when in 1968.
Wow.
For a family membership then.
Yes,
so.
and that was a lot of money back then, and
Yeah.
we started taking lessons and took off from there.
Wow.
Who's the pro back
Now it's a career.
Back then?
It was Dwayne Litsky,
Dwayne Litsky.
and the assistant pro was Ron Blevins. And,
Ron
and
Blevins,
they
who
both
went-
gave
went
us some
to
lessons
Wichita.
and had
Yeah.
a lot of fun with both of them.
Oh my gosh, the Litsky family.
Yeah.
Bruce Litsky, of course, played on the PGA Tour for many years. So let's talk about the early days of the Ben Hogan Tour and the Nike Tour. How much fun did we have?
You know, Jay, you look back and it's too bad we can't do a movie on something like that, just how much fun and how it got started and the history and how great it seemed with the PGA Tour. And it really was a lot of fun. We, you know, I remember that what happened for me was in the past, we caddying for Rod, and I got to try to qualify in 11 different events, and I saw what it brought to a mid-sized community and how big it was.
A golf tournament.
A golf tournament, because a golf tournament in the city of Wichita was perfect.
Especially
because-
at that time. We weren't as
Yes.
big as we are now.
Yes, and the thing is that it was just everything that I thought it would be, and it was really a lot of fun to get started on doing that.
And I understand there was a memorable phone call
Uh-huh.
with a gentleman, Steve Ball. Was
Steve
that
Ball,
his name?
yeah. Steve at the time was the president, and I was upcoming. And Steve called me up and he said, "Hey, you've heard about the tour is trying to organize and get a secondary tour."
Okay.
Which was absolutely the right thing to do at the right time and at the right price, because there were so many different young players. And when I say that, they had some money, but they didn't have any place to play. And so they're looking for places to play, and the tour was really needed.
Because they weren't good enough or didn't have enough money enough to play at the higher level, at the PGA level.
Yeah, it was real hard to get in there because Rod went through that, and people enjoy the history of it, but he went out there, and to get on tour, you had to be tournament ready because when you went in, it's not like you're playing over a year. You're playing for 5
the money
days.
right now.
Yeah,
Right now.
And right now, you better play good today.
Okay.
So why was the timing right at that time? Why did the moon and the stars line up for Wichita, for for Reflection Ridge? What was it about that timing that made it right?
Well, when Steve called, Jay, they said they want us to help get it started because it was, if you think about it, it was a triangle between the PGA Tour, the PGA sections, and the Ben Hogan Company. And that's how the thing was formed.
Okay.
And so what they wanted was they wanted us to find the locations for the tournaments. They wanted us to get the rules officials and all of the guys to run the tournaments, and they wanted us to run the qualifiers.
That's all the infrastructure, basically. Set it all up.
Except for they just took the money for the guys coming in, and then we pretty much took it from there and ran for it. So that was kind of the history of it. So to fast forward and answer your question, well, then what happened was right away we were just starting Reflection Ridge, and I said, well, a new golf course in Wichita, and having gone to the towns and seeing the impact and the excitement that it brings, because it's a big event.
Yeah.
It's a big event in a smaller community as opposed to New York, Chicago.
Right.
So that's what happened, and so Steve and I talked about it, and so we said, okay, Wichita's perfect, and then we ended up doing one in Oklahoma, and then so we had 3 events in the South Central section of the first tour.
It would never happen today, right?
No.
I mean, a new concept like that. I mean, the first tee shot hadn't even been hit on this golf course, and the PGA Tour awarded Wichita, Kansas, with this great opportunity for an event on this great developmental tour.
Yeah, and Bob Dixon comes in, and we sign the papers, and here's Bob Dixon, who played the tour and very respected. And he comes in, and I said, all right, let me talk to you about a few things. What do we need to do for the qualifying, because since we're going to run the qualifying. And he says, well, what we've got written down is that we want to recommend that the person has a 2 handicap to try to qualify. Now, think about it. A second tour event, and they're recommending a 2 handicap.
Okay.
Well, that should have told me something, because the very first day on the first qualifying, our executive director was Danny Hickman, and Danny called me up and he says, Rick, he called me Pards back then. He says, Pards, you better come up here to number 1 tee. And I said, all right, what do you got going? And so I run up there, and here's a gentleman that showed up in a country button-down shirt with the hard buttons on it, and he's got a pull cart.
Surprised he didn't have a cowboy hat.
And so Danny looks at me and he says, do you think he's a 2 handicap? And right away I went, And so anyway, to make a long story short, after the 5th hole, we got a phone call, and I said, Danny, you better go out there. And the guy was 16 over par after the first 5 holes. And he says, it's really affecting our games. And so Danny went up to him, put his arm around him, and says, Pards, I think it's been kind of a long day. Let me go buy you a beer. And he says, okay. And that was it. But that wouldn't happen today.
No, but I appreciate you not calling me out by name. I just wasn't playing good at the time.
I'm doing the math in my head and trying to figure out, I'm like, I think I might have been able to qualify at that point.
You'd have had him 4 down by 5 the 5th hole.
That's hilarious.
But anyway, the point is that it was the PGA Tour, and it was just getting started, but it wasn't all glamour and glory. We had to make things up as we got started, and right away after the first year, they were taking USGA handicaps verification for them.
No doubt. Did the business community of Wichita help or
they did
embrace that event? How did that go?
And you know what was nice about that too is because Reg Booth, who was the owner here at the time, he worked for Pizza Hut. He was a Pizza Hut franchisee.
Exactly. Yeah.
So away, Pizza Hut was huge at the time, and of course they went
what
ahead.
Year are we talking about?
1990.
1990. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And so they jumped in, and right away having the new golf course, and then us that's involved with the PGA, South Central, to get it going.
Yeah.
And then to have Pizza Hut. It was the combination of all things we needed
Right.
to have a real good first event.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm sure.
Could we not have had a better first winner than Tom Lehman?
Unbelievable. And stayed with Reg.
So I know the story, but you're the best storyteller I've ever met in my life. So you tell the story of how they got hooked up.
Well, at the time, in a tour like this, and first place was $18,000. First place back then.
1990.
It was a $100,000 tournament, which was
Okay.
a big number back then.
Okay.
But still, these guys are driving, and they're just getting started.
Right.
A lot of them out of college, and so money is hard to come by.
Right.
And so most of the tournaments had housing for all the players. And so Tom Lehman gets hooked up with and stays with Reg, and what a wonderful deal, because Tom only missed one cut in all of the 2 years that he played, the tour and the other tour. In fact, that he almost quit after, if he didn't win here, he was thinking about quitting.
Well, he was like 28-ish. He'd been playing the mini tours, and he hadn't had all that great success. And of course, there's just zero money out there.
Right.
And so he was at the cusp of just throwing in the towel. And one of the great connectors between him and Reg was their religion, their believers.
Yes, right.
Right. I think that's probably what really drew them in. But it was total random that this happened.
Yes.
Right.
I love that for the newer players, especially, Rolling Hills host the Heritage Classic.
Yes.
And the girls come in, and we host the girls for the very same reason, because they are driving with all their belongings in their vehicles all over the country, and they have no money, but it also draws attention for spectators and fans. For more interest in the tournament, I would think.
Absolutely, and I think for the people watching, it's pretty interesting to find out how did it go from where it is to where it is, and just like that, everybody needed to have a place to stay because they couldn't afford to pay the money of the hotels and that sort of thing. And most of the people were fixing dinners for them, and sometimes their caddies were staying, and it was a wonderful experience, and so that really helped get not only the tour popularity, but everybody then seeing what was happening wanted to be on that tour, and it was their gateway to try to get to the PGA Tour.
I see. It was a draw for the players. The players heard, this is how we treat the players on this tour.
They knew, because there were so many different tours around, smaller tours that didn't pay as much as what was being paid. So it was obviously the place to go, but it was also set up as a honing area for the older guys in their 40s who had been playing and were still trying to keep playing for a long time. So this tour really had the best of both worlds, where
a lot of experience.
And they wanted to keep playing it so they could play on it, but also the young guys getting started to try to get on tour.
Yeah, they cut their teeth on it. And it started out as the Ben Hogan Tour, and then transitioned to the Nike Tour, and then
Buy.com, and then Nationwide, Web.com.
It had multiple names.
And now the Korn Ferry. Rick Nuckolls is our guest. Rick was the first tournament director, tournament coordinator for the first 7 Wichita Opens on the Ben Hogan and the Nike Tour. We appreciate him joining us on the Divot and the Diva. So, Rick, what were your biggest challenges to get ready for this journey before the first tee shot was even hit?
Well, it was the organizational part of it, but in somewhat, it was the start of how do we get it out there and let people know about it. And so we had, as we mentioned, you've got to get all of the rules officials, and they were the rules officials not just for the Monday qualifier, but for the tournament, because the South Central section, half of the rules officials came from us, and the other half came from the PGA Tour. And then it was getting the media out there, and the media embraced it phenomenal, as you know, because you were a great part of that. And in fact, you remember the first year back on the patio, they're doing sports broadcast on all 3 stations, and back there from the back patio. And that's kind of how I knew it arrived when they're all back there and seeing that and the excitement about that. But
And you were present for that.
I was
That year.
here
Yes.
was a
since
big
day
part of
one.
that.
Right,
Absolutely.
making that happen. Mhm.
So the challenges were, getting the locations and getting the golf course, getting the people and the communities to go ahead and support it, and then running all of that and getting it ready, all in the timeline of, because this was in 1989 when they organized it, and they wanted the first tournament in the spring
That
of
spring.
1990.
So 6 months or less.
Yeah, so
That's
we
short.
we had it on go on everything.
Yeah,
So
Yep. They're like, get it happen. And then, of course, you needed somebody to corral the not too over players. You need that big shepherd's hook.
Two handicaps that
yank them off the stage.
played
So
like
you could
30
actually say, Susan, that you owned one of those guys because he couldn't beat you at all, and you were a good
pay
player.
up, buddy. Pay up.
But it's they can now. You really got to be a player to get on there and try to do that.
Yeah, very exciting.
All right, let's go through the winners of the first 7 Wichita Opens. I'm going to state their name and just whatever comes to your mind, right? So 1990, our first winner, Tom Lehman. What comes to mind?
What comes to mind is people like to hear about the stories, and there's a hidden story about that because Tom wins the tour, and he was about to quit, or at least he had mentioned that he was thinking about. He had to get some success. So this tournament helped propel him into where he becomes a major winner down the road. It just shows
Number one in the world, too.
It shows you just what this tournament had for the impact of Tom Lehman. Because if he didn't go on to do maybe he wasn't a major winner and that sort of thing. But it was fun to see him come in there. But in the second year he came back, Tom Lehman only missed one cut on the Ben Hogan Tour in 2 years.
Okay.
And that was here on the second year.
Okay.
Because I'm standing at the scoreboard, and we had a friend here playing, and he's a good amateur player, Carlton Densbach.
Okay.
And the people were saying, well, it looks like the cut's going to be at 4 under. And anybody out there, and the tour official says, well, there's an amateur out there. And he was at 4 under. Well, Carlton ended up making a birdie and going to 5 under, and because he was 5 under, Tom Lehman missed that cut.
Oh.
Because of that, because of just what happened right here in Wichita, they changed the rule to make a cut. The rule said to the low 50 players and ties.
Yes, okay.
So after that, they added a word, and it's now the low 50 professionals and ties.
Oh.
And because of Carlton and making
was
the cut.
taking food off their table.
But the funniest part of the
my
whole
gosh.
thing, they interviewed Carlton the next night
Yes.
on TV, and they said, well, what do you think about you making Tom Lehman miss the cut? And he looked right in the camera and says, if these guys can't beat me, they better get a real job.
I could see Carl saying that.
That's perfect. And okay, I can see that.
That's funny. All right, 1991. What do you remember about Eric Hoos?
That was really fun. Second round, shoots 61, and what a nice guy. And to come and shoot 61 on our golf course, I thought was just an incredible thing with the pressure that's on these guys. And then that's when you kind of find out, when you start separating some of the players from some of the non-players, because to come under pressure and to shoot this golf course in 61, I thought was incredible.
Yeah, and that held for a long time as a tournament record.
Yes.
All right, 1992, Jeff Woodland. Do you remember who he beat in the playoff?
Bob May.
Bob May.
He beat Bob
Who
May.
went head-to-head against Tiger
Tiger.
in a PGA championship.
Absolutely.
Oh, my.
And we saw Bob May. He played a lot down in Oklahoma, down at Oak Tree. And
Well, he's from Oklahoma State.
yeah. And
Wow.
what a nice guy. And
Yeah.
it just shows you, it's still, he didn't win, Bob didn't win, but it helped propel him and got his confidence to play better, and he really did well.
You remember that Sunday we had a rain delay. I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, and so we were well behind, and so both Jeff Woodland and Bob May tied, and we had very limited light, and so we went to 18 and
Yes.
played it, I think, close to 3 or 4 times, and it's getting close to dark. And I remember some of our members bringing their cars, the headlights up on the green.
My
And we're thinking,
gosh.
okay, just go one more hole. Well, they tied again, and so we had to come back Monday morning.
Right.
No way.
And Jeff Woodland won on the first hole
wow.
on Monday morning. But
Wow.
that's what I remember.
That's a story in and of itself.
Oh, there's so many great stories like this. And I think people love to hear these kind of things of how this all happened and how they got started. And,
Yes. No, I
and
agree.
one putt, what it maybe
Right.
makes a guy's career.
Yep.
All right, here's a good one. 1993. Remember who won that one? Four-time All-American.
Oh, yeah, David Duval.
David Duval.
Yes.
What do you remember about David's win?
You know, it was really fun in the fact that we knew that he was, and you and I talked about it during the deal, that David Duval's coming. He was a real accomplished player in college, and he was a big name already.
So prior to the tour.
And coming here, and then watched him play, and just as consistent as it can be. But what I really was impressed was we got done, and I didn't want to go up and bother him because he just signed a scorecard and a few things, and I was asked to have him do this, and would he do this and this. And he couldn't have been nicer. He says, sure, where do you want to go, Rick? What do I need to do? And I remember we walked off at 18 down there, and he says, okay, how about now? Can I sign anything for it? You know, he was just really accommodating.
Personable. Very
Yes,
personable.
he was. Yes, he was. And But, you know, he went on to be, as we expected him to be, a major contributor to the tour, and he did.
Yeah, 13 wins, one major. He was also world number one for a while.
Okay. Wow.
1994, you remember that winner? He
Now
had a
you're
famous
pushing it.
sister on the LPGA Tour.
Now you're pushing it.
Now
Okay.
you're pushing
Yeah.
it. I know it because you got to remember, I'm
I
74.
know.
I was like, that's just cruel.
I'm putting
my gosh,
one of
Jay.
my good buddies on the spot. Dennis
me.
Postlethwaite.
Oh, sure,
So
sure.
his sister Kathy won, I don't know, 4 or 5 times on the LPGA Tour.
Wow.
He didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't propel him like it did Tom Lehman
Right.
and David Duval. But we had a good time with him that week. I remember.
Yeah, you know, and the thing about Dennis was he was one of those players that really wasn't expected to win, as you said. And when he comes through and he won, and I remember right after he won, he kind of like, did I win?
I know. He never
like, I'm
won.
just playing golf.
I
He
think
never
he-
won on this
level.
level or anywhere
Above-
near
yeah,
it.
above
or
that.
after.
Or after.
Wow.
And it was just one of those things.
Shocked
that
him, too.
I think he was just playing regular golf.
Just
and,
having fun.
Yeah, and having a good time. And
Yeah.
he knew he was in the deal, and then he
He
ends up
probably
winning.
knew too that, at that point, we're talking about 4 years in, he knew what had come out of the tour, so he was probably thinking, I'm playing with some greats here. Like he didn't.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like he didn't even expect to be a great. He just wanted to play.
And what's different now as opposed to then is just like we were saying, these guys now all have swing doctors. They got nutritionists.
know it.
They've got the club people for
This
everything.
is why my
Hey, Mother's
handicap's
Day's coming.
so bad.
Come on.
I do not have any of that.
Is he your swing doctor and your nutritionist too?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Let's just keep moving.
I make sure she eats.
Yeah, we don't miss a meal.
But that's what's really neat
Right.
is to see how these guys
Perfected the art
And Dennis was one
the
of those
sport.
players that just obviously nobody had
enjoy
those
it.
kind. Maybe
Yeah.
David Duval might have had some of that, but
Yeah.
the young guys just coming out playing, they were just players trying to, like you said, get on the tour and see what happens.
See what happened?
All right. Do you remember our 1995 winner? Out of LSU,
Yeah, David Toms.
David Toms.
David Toms.
David Toms.
What a wonderful guy, and he. In fact, I sent after he won his first PGA, I just sent a Reflection Ridge thing down there, and he sent it back to me and said, and wrote
Signed
it.
it.
Just nice to do that.
Oh.
But, we it was about it was about half a year afterwards, and we went down to the Panama City, Florida Nike event, and it was the tour championship at the end, and I followed David around a lot, and you could tell at that point he was going to be a really, really great player in the future, and he did, and he went on to do that. And So it's fun of the relationships that you meet when you meet people like that, and it carries on. And I really feel like, today that maybe I could send him a letter anyway and say, hey, from Wichita, and thank you. And he was just, the quality of a lot of these guys are so, and girls are so good to see.
Yeah, David Toms won 13 times on the PGA Tour, 5 times with one major, the PGA Championship, which he had a hole-in-one during his win. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he's won 5 times on the Champions Tour. He's got one major there. So, again, this developmental tour thing was really becoming a high success. So our 1996 winner, Rick Kramer. I know you have a story about Rick.
Yeah, I played with Rick in a second tour event the year before, and he was just there with his mom and just trying to go through the tournament, and so he ends up winning here. He came in and I welcomed him. He didn't remember playing with me, and I didn't. I remembered him, but we talked a little bit about that. But he ends up. It's fun to watch a guy that you had played with once before, and he came in and had a heck of a week. Did well. Yeah,
he did. All right, so those were our 7 winners from Reflection Ridge under the leadership of Rick Nuckolls, our guest today on the Divot and the Diva. In my opinion, I'm going to throw a name out, because when you think of Ben Hogan's vision when he created this tour, because he wanted to create a true developmental tour where these guys learn to schedule, learn to plan, learn to travel, learn to practice, learn to deal with the media, learn to deal with patrons and gallery and all that stuff.
Was that something that you understood when you agreed to host the first, organize the
I knew it
tournament?
because my brother had planned,
Okay.
and what Jay said was absolutely something that these guys have to know, because it's going to be forced upon you.
Right.
And if you're not good at those kind of things, it can ruin your whole career.
Yeah.
And so
it wouldn't be your golf game that messed you up. It would be all the logistics around it.
Of trying to get there. And for example, of that, Rod had a caddy that caddied most of the time for him, but we were in San Diego, and after the second round, being Friday night, they decided to go party in Los Angeles.
Oh, no.
And Rod's tee time was 8 o'clock. And so here it is, and it's 7:20. He comes up and says, Pro, I need a caddy, and he better do it. And I said,
strap it on.
Where's Charlie? And he says, no idea.
Not happening. And
so it just shows you that, he's got to have the coordination. You got to have all that coordinated with your caddy.
Right.
Be here by such and such and such and such.
Gosh.
And where to get your hotels, how far in advance, and
yeah,
very, very good. It's a very good learning experience on how to travel and organize outside of the golf game.
So the guy that I think really represents that vision is Woody Austin. So we're here at what we call our Front Nine Studios. Woody's sister and brother-in-law live 3 doors down from us here at Reflection Ridge. Yeah. But I think of Woody's career. He never won on the Korn Ferry Tour, Ben Hogan, Nike, etc. But he came close. He had some close calls. And once he got his PGA Tour card in 1995, he won his first year. He won the Buick Open, was Rookie of the Year, went on to win 4 or 5 more times. He's won 4 times on the Champions Tour. He's got a couple of other wins around golf. And I don't think Woody Austin would be Woody Austin without the Ben Hogan Tour. So it's a perfect example of how it develops players to get to that highest stage and not only get there, but win.
But also, I don't know if you know this story, but even the second year in 92, I think it was 92 or 93, I get a phone call from Woody's sister. And she says, can my brother, and I said, I didn't know you had a brother. And she says, yeah, and he tried to qualify Monday, and he's an alternate. And he said, could he play with you and your brother on a practice round? Because we were in the tournament, and he says, could he play with you guys on a practice round? So I called Orlando Pope, who is now, head of the PGA rules, and I said, can an alternate play a practice round? And he says, yeah, he can play. And because of that, we played, and that's how we got to meet Woody.
Okay.
But also that same week, Woody meets Shannon, from Wichita, and
which is
so because of the tournament
That's
of
his
him
wife.
coming here, he meets what is now his
Oh
wife.
my gosh, it's so funny too, because just a couple of months ago, I was talking to a neighbor, not the sister of Woody, but a neighbor, and we were talking about balls hitting the houses and the trees and all of this, and she was not happy, but they were. She's like thinking from the back tees, they're trying to shoot over the houses to that dogleg left.
Right.
And I'm like, truthfully, I don't think there are very many that can do it. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they're just bad golfers that are hitting the houses. But she said, the only one I would trust to do that is Woody. And I'm like, who's Woody?
Yeah. Well, that's what we were saying. But as it turned out, we played a practice round with him, and he said, "Oh, this guy's got game," and he did too. So imagine all the little things, the side things that happen just because of this tournament.
Right. Yeah. Super cool. Super cool. Well, if favorite moments from the first 7 years, you've told a lot of stories already, but are there any specific favorites?
There is. I was telling Jay that what I don't think anybody really knows is that on the Monday of the tournament that week, we always had the first event was called a shootout, of which we had 10 players.
Okay.
And we would play 9 holes, and all 10 would tee off.
Okay.
It would take an hour to play the first hole.
Yeah.
And then,
No doubt.
And then we'd eliminate one person per hole. So then there was 9 after this.
Oh,
after the
like
first
our
hole.
horse race.
Yeah,
We call it the horse race.
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so
How fun.
and so we end up and I get a call from Bob Dixon,
Okay.
and it's on. This was on the Friday before the Monday, and he says, "Rick, do you have all the players for the shootout?" And I said, "I've got 9." He says, "Perfect." He says, "We've got a guy that we want to play. If you want to come see this, you got to have him in your tournament." And I said, "Really?" He said, "It's a kid from Arkansas, and on the second hole." It's a par 5, and you got 9 guys teeing off on the shootout. Okay?
Right.
And it's par 5 uphill, and he said of the 9, 2 of them got there in 2. All the rest of them couldn't get it to the green. And he said Tom Lehman hit a 3-wood into the green for his second shot. And he says this kid hits an 8-iron into the green. And I said, and wait, for third shot? And he says, no, second shot. His name is John Daly.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
And John Daly was absolutely one of the longest, if not the longest player.
Wow.
And I said, everybody's going to want to see this guy play. So he was officially on the top 10. And so we were excited, and we're telling everybody about it.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday night, he has a fight with his girlfriend and left and went back to Arkansas and did not play in the tournament.
That kind of sounds like John Daly, doesn't it? I'm like telling you.
You know, that was kind of the neat thing.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
And then one other really neat story, I was telling you now how the rules officials
Yes.
come from the PGA, and we also had PGA Tour. Well, in our first year here, and Jay knew about this one, a professional, we'll just call him Russell, and
To protect
that was
the
his
guilty.
first name, and he hit it over into the water it's a par 3 and water around the green.
Okay.
So he knocks it in the water, and so we go up there, and he says, "Where do I drop it?" And the person I'm with is the rules official, and he says, "You got to drop it back there on the other side over the water." And he says, "Well, with all due respect," he said, "could I speak to a real rules official?" And so the guy that I'm with is a good friend of mine, and his name is Doug Breck. Well, what Russell didn't realize, the tour official comes over, and he says, "Where did he tell you to drop it?" And said, "Right over there." And he says, "Well, that's where you're dropping it because Doug Breck from this South Central section teaches all of us how to be the rules officials for the PGA Tour." He teaches the PGA Tour rules officials, and the look on this guy's
And then you're
face.
like, is that real enough for you?
and so those are the neat stories, you see little things like that, because we were the PGA, guys working it, they didn't think that we knew the rules, and he didn't realize that guy taught all the PGA guys.
Oh my God. And you're in Wichita, Kansas, Hicksville,
yeah.
so what do you know?
So, a lot of cool stories that come from
That's fun.
when we got this tour started here at Reflection Ridge, 1990.
And would you do it all over again?
Oh, absolutely.
In a heartbeat. Didn't even think about that.
Because, you look at the impact that it's had on Wichita, and Jay absolutely was the best. And coming there and being there 37 years on helping us and taking it, and how this tour got so well known that I had a group come to me after the third round, and he says, we're in the marketing, and he said, did you know that the word Wichita Open, we predicted, was said more than 2 million times during the week of the tournament?
Holy cow.
So, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of exposure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Checks in the mail, pro. All right, let's change gears a little bit here. Talk about golf in general. You've been around this game for a long, long time. Tell me, what's good about the game right now?
I think what's good about the game is how strong the fields are around the world. Just like from this tour, it has grown exponentially because there are so many good women players and pros. There's almost not enough room there's a lot of young men and women that I think will never go on to be stars that should be stars just because of that. And I think golf is as strong as it's ever been, and more people are playing. More and more people want to play the game, and more people want to live on the golf courses. And so I think the game itself is really strong, and it's good to see. There's negatives, but that's life, the way things are.
Well, and everything evolves and changes. I mean, it's not golf is not what it used to be, and there are good reasons for that. And those changes sometimes are hard, and not all changes are appropriate either. But that's life. I mean, like I wouldn't be playing it because it's a gentleman's sport, Well, I wouldn't even be welcome on this course at a certain point in time.
Those are the old days.
Those are the very old days, which is pretty funny right now. But yeah, so that's the fun of it.
Yeah, and with that, back then when we were helping with some designs on the golf courses, they would put the black back tees and the middle tees in the middle of one big long tee box. Oh, where are the women going to play? Well, we'll just put them up front. That's really changed, and they really now have set that up where the women's tees are up at a point where they can hit the par fours and two as well. And that's the beautiful thing of golf, how it's evolved into a game for the families, the entire families and the kids.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say here on Tuesday, I play Tuesday nights with the Women's League, and we just started last week, and we had 41 women on Tuesday night.
Wonderful.
And that has grown exponentially over the last 3 years.
Wonderful.
And that's the thing. There's not a lot of room for, we're going to have to do something different because there are more people playing.
That's the growth of the game, and it shows you the popularity of the game and a game for the whole family.
We see kids out here. We see kids out here that I'm jealous of their tee off. Or their drive. Like, what?
But that's what I think about the game is really, what's good with it. There's a lot of good things about how it's good for life, and golf teaches the young kids and older people that, hey, it's only you and you're responsible for every shot. And you learn that, and people that play golf really take that through life.
And don't forget the humility that it teaches us all.
Absolutely. The word pride goes out the window.
Oh my God.
Before I let you go, again, you're the older brother of your younger brother, Rod, who you're so proud of. You two have just such an amazing relationship, and you caddied for him off and on during his 4 or 5 year PGA Tour career.
Right.
Just take us through that journey a little bit and talk about what it meant for you to at times travel with him and carry his bag.
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I think people want to hear about what's it really like with that kind of thing. And for Rod, the very first time I was the head pro at Rolling Hills, and it was 1980, and Rod had qualified. But it was hard to, as we talked, it was hard to get on tour. And he had to go qualify, and then you have to be in the top 4 at that time.
Oh, that's very narrow.
And so he calls up and he says, I'll call you and let you know. And Channel 3 was all ready to go down there and follow him because, we haven't
the local celebrity.
Until, because Greer was doing well and Rod was the next player to come
Greer
out.
Jones.
Yes.
Yep.
And Monty Kaiser, of course, had some success too. So Rod calls up about an hour later. I'm in a shop and I forgot about, coming down there. Well, if he qualifies, I'm going to caddy. And my wife had the bags packed and the car ready to go. And I pick up the phone, Rolling Hills, this Rick. And all of a sudden he just says, 69 pro, I made it, come on down. and I called them at NBC and they headed down there and we drove down there.
That's exciting.
And we get down there and I've got on my kind of like this, some blue slacks, and I'm out there caddying the first day, getting ready, and a guy comes up behind me and taps me on there, and I turn around and it's Bruce Litsky, and he says, "Hey, congratulations to you and Rod, congrats on it, and anything we can do to help you in the future, and good luck." And he didn't have to come up and do that, but to come up and say hi and to us, and being from Wichita and all that kind of thing.
Yes, the connection.
And all that was
We cheer
fun.
for the locals all the time.
Oh, yeah.
If at all possible.
But it was always so exciting. For example, on the first year, Rod comes out of the gate and made the cut at Phoenix. It was unusual for a rookie to qualify and then make the cut in the first tournament. So then he goes on to the second week and he's playing good in L.A. But then I caddied for him 2 weeks or 3 weeks later at the Hawaiian Open. First never been to Hawaii and that kind of thing. Right. And so we fly out there. And in the second round, the ninth hole was a par 5 that was reachable if he had a good tee shot. And you can visualize, here's the green out in front, a big bunker in front, a huge crowd grandstand behind there.
Oh.
And he hits it perfectly down the middle. And so then they're obviously waiting for the green to clear. And so George Grigno, who was a member at Rolling Hills, had a house out there, and he went out
in Hawaii,
and he was a marshal there. And all of a sudden he's coming over, and I said, "That looks like George." And he comes walking up to us right in the middle of fairway, and he says, "Hi guys, how we doing?"
Oh my gosh!
And so he's standing right there.
How bizarre!
I'm right next to there, and there's the green with all the big thousands of people. And Rod says, "What do you think, pro?" And I said, "You're swinging good." He says, 2 or 3. And I said, "Hit the 3-iron." And he said, "You can clear the bunker." And so he hit it, and it sounded like a rocket, just, and he hits that. And now everybody's watching, and in slow motion, your ball's coming down, and the pin's right behind the flag, or right behind the green, or the bunker. And the ball bounces. And then all of a sudden, the biggest roar that 5,000 people can, and he hit it 2 feet from the hole and made an eagle.
Wow.
And then we walk around and we look up, and here's the big scoreboard back then. And now he's in 4th place. And so, we're both kind of puckering, but I'm trying to be calm to keep him calm and just talk normal stuff that we can. But
just focus on the shot. This shot.
Yeah, experiences like that you never forget.
Oh my gosh, the roar of 5,000 people. You're not going to forget that.
No, and it was really fun to see. So the traveling was fun. As we said back then, the money wasn't there, so people weren't flying. You didn't have your own jets and that kind of thing. We're just trying to get from week to week, but I'm proud because every time I caddy for him, he made the cut. So.
Well, I was actually going to ask. So as the caddy, did you get blamed if he lost? But he made the cut at least.
No, but I did have a story where I'm in the Phoenix Open in the 3rd hole, and so he's playing with Gary. The announcer and McCord and Gary Koch.
Gary Koch. Okay.
And so Rod hits it on the green, and I put the bag right here. And you never, ever, never, and I'm telling you out there if you're caddying, lay the bag down. He hits the shot. I went and got it, but I had the bag sitting up. And I'm walking back, and here's Gary Koch getting ready to swing. He's starting his downswing, and in the same time, in the slow motion, I'm seeing my bag going forward. And the bag goes boom, He hits the shot. It goes clear on the right bunker back there. And he turned around and looked at me and gave me a look, which I deserved because I should have never done that.
Oh my gosh.
And I just went, I am sorry. And he finally talked to me on about 16th hole. but you know, those are the kinds of things and the stories, you know, that happens.
Well, some of us
He went up to
learn.
Rod after the round. He went, I think you need a new caddy.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, I'm going to
And
kill
nobody
this
asked
one.
me to caddy him
I'm
or
going to kill this one.
But, I mean, those are all stories that, you know, as you can imagine, going to when you have a tournament like that and traveling. And
So funny.
And we just had a ball, you know, going from week to week. And so then wintertime was over and got back and came back. But it was a lifetime of memories in about 4 weeks.
Yeah. On the bag mistake, I always say, I don't mind making mistakes. I just don't like making the same one over and over again. So I'm going to find a new one. So you just found a new mistake.
Well, and it was about 2 holes later, and I don't know if it was because of my first mistake, but Rod hit it in the bunker, and I'm walking in there, and he says, Pro, make that real level, because back then he says, if it's not perfect, they'll fine me $200. And that was a lot of money.
Holy cow,
Because
that is
back
a lot.
then, the tour was only $36,000 for a winner.
Okay.
Back when Rod was
right,
playing.
right.
And then now, you know, you make the cut at the Masters, you're going to make a whole lot more just for that.
Yeah.
But back then, the tours it was tough to make money. And Rod, as Gary Hallberg said, Rod, don't quit now. You're way too good. But he says, well, I want to get out and start making some money. And then he says, well, shortly after, they're going to start raising these up, and there's going to be good money. And
the purses.
Rod was just kind of a victim of the timing being just a little too early right before it got started.
And he wanted to
Yeah.
start, you know, he's
Yeah.
a family man, and that was important to him.
Oh yeah, and
So,
he was 28th in greens and
Yeah.
regulation the first year,
yeah,
so he was
one of the
really
greatest. I mean, I was lucky. I played with Rod a couple of times, and I just one of the purest ball strikers I've ever been around.
Yeah.
And he's just like Rick. He's a little quieter than Rick, but he's just as special and just your mom and dad would be proud of,
Well, thanks.
of all you siblings. So
Thanks. But you know, the one piece of advice you probably want to give to the young players out there is, you know, when you play on a local level and you're good, keep working at it, because then you're going to go to the next level and you're going to meet players, more of them, and good players. Then you get to the national level, and I remember playing in qualifying at the Leggett Classic, which was a tour event down there, and I walked off and I shot one over par, and I was feeling good but I missed the cut by 2. Took 1 under to get in it. In fact, I played that week with Ken Green. Remember, I had a sister who caddied.
yeah.
And so get done, and then the next morning, Rod and I arrive at the golf course, and John Mahaffey shot 61 on that golf course, and I said, I couldn't shoot 61 in my dreams on this golf course.
Wow.
So it shows you for the young players, no matter how good you are, don't get a big head.
Yeah.
Keep working and try to get better and better and better. And that's why these guys are all so good right now, because they're all pushing each other.
Yep.
Well, Rick, you're a good storyteller. We're going to have you on again. This
Yeah,
has
super
been
fun.
A great time here on the Divot and the Diva. I appreciate our friendship over the years.
Absolutely.
And we'll continue to walk this path together. So, Rick Nuckolls, our first guest on
Thank
the
you
Divot
so
and the
much
Diva.
for your
Congratulations
time.
on winning the Masters.
Why, thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Next is the PGA Championship. So this is the Divot and the Diva, where experience meets curiosity, of course. Tap like and subscribe. We don't want you to miss out on any of the episodes. So let's call it a wrap. I'm the Divot. She's the Diva. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Remember, play golf fair, play fast, collect friends along the way, and be sure to join us next time on the Divot and the Diva.
Okay. See you guys.